Today on How It's Made. Combination locks. 50,000 permutations from just 3 tumblers. Pottery. Ancient techniques still hold true today. Caravans. Hook it up and watch the tailbacks grow. And erasers. 300 years of obliterating mistakes. But first, combination padlocks have saved 1 million cyclists from having to walk home. They're functional and possess a difficult code to crack. With just 3 tumblers, there are over 50,000 possible number permutations, making the combination lock one of the most effective ways of keeping sticky fingers away from your stuff. The combination lock's main locking mechanism is called the base plate, and it's comprised of 7 components. This black piece, called the lock bolt, is what slides over to free the shackle when someone dials the correct combination. Workers rivet the base plate components into place so the lock will stand up to repeated use. Here are those components before assembly and after. The assembled base plate is secured into the casing. Then the trip lever spring is installed. This automatically scrambles the mechanism every time the lock is closed. The shackle is put through holes in the casing, positioning one end against the trip lever. Workers fasten the other side with a tiny steel bar called a yoke. The lock's combination function is made up of 3 stacked discs called tumblers. Here the first 2 go in. Next, the shackle is greased so it'll slide in and out easily. If desired, the face of the lock has a design printed upon it, even a school's logo. The printing machine uses a 4-colour printing process, applying 1 colour at a time. The painted dials get 2 coats of clear varnish to harden and protect the paint. While that's happening, other workers assemble the dial components. First, they take the indicator button and attach it to the dial. Then the 3rd tumbler is riveted to the back of the dial. This tumbler will control the movement of the 2 other tumblers inside the lock's casing. All 3 tumblers have V-shaped indentations. The correct combination aligns those V's, allowing the lock bolt to slide over and free the shackle. Each tumbler has a code number stamped on the back. The number corresponds to the location of its indentation. Each lock is programmed into the computer with the 3 tumbler codes. The computer then randomly creates a combination that will align the 3 indentations. There are more than 50,000 possible combinations. The system prints the combination on a sticker along with a barcode. The barcode is programmed into a central computer, where it's recorded with the lock's serial number. The guts of the combination lock are finished, and it's now time for the final assembly. Workers put the dial onto the casing. Then a forming tool presses down on the casing's rim, folding it tightly over the dial. A computer-guided machine then engraves a serial number on each lock. The factory then verifies each and every combination lock by hand. That's quite a procedure. considering this plant produces more than 10,000 locks every day. A good thing too, when some sorry piece of work tries to raid your locker or nick your bike. As early as 11,000 BC, man was making utensils out of clay. This was the birth of pottery. Modern pottery is divided into three categories: porcelain, stoneware and earthenware. What differentiates them is the mixture of clays and the firing process. This earthenware piece starts out in the mind of an artist. Following the creation of precise drawings, a series of specialized tools sculpt a plaster model on a potter's wheel. The diameter is checked with calipers. The model is 7% larger than the finished piece, to compensate for shrinkage that will occur during drying and firing. The potter sculpts some parts by hand, then glues them on. Using this model, a master mould is cast, made out of a rigid type of plaster called gypsum. The master is used to cast a production mould out of either rubber, or in this case, plaster. First, the plaster is poured in. Using their hands, workers break up any air bubbles that could cause defects in the casting. It's then left to air dry in a warm room overnight. Once it's ready, it can be extracted. A delicate operation that takes 15 minutes. This production mould has to cure for 48 hours before going into service, when it'll be good for 200 castings. It'll be identified by the model number on its side. The earthenware mix is made of talc, a mineral called nepheline cyanide, a dark beige clay known as ball clay, a mineral called silica, and a white clay known as kaolin, all mixed with 40% water. The mix is poured into the production mould with careful, even pressure, again to avoid creating air bubbles. The plaster mould slowly absorbs the water, leaving behind a moist earthenware lining half a centimetre thick. After about half an hour, this lining hardens and the surplus liquid can be emptied out. The excess earthenware is cut off at the top. Then, after another 45 minutes or so, the piece from the mould is extracted. Workers have to handle the earthenware gingerly, with even pressure. If one finger exerts too much force, it'll show up as a dent, but only after the piece is fired. After a 24-hour drying period, workers then carefully shave off the seam left by the two halves of the mould. Then rub the piece on wet stone to even out the top and bottom. Then they smooth the surface with a wet sponge. Unlike stoneware, which comes out glossy after firing, earthenware remains dull. So to make it shiny and colourful, specialised glazes and enamel paints are applied. Finally, workers spray the piece from top to bottom in a transparent glaze to give it an overall sheen. Then it's off to a room-sized kiln for an 8-hour firing, during which time the temperature climbs to more than 1,000 degrees Celsius. This is followed by a 2-hour cool down. The intense heat activates the pigments in the paints and makes the colours come alive, turning what was once a lump of clay into a work of art, or just a cup and saucer, depending on your taste. Coming up on How It's Made. Caravans. They may be the butt of many a joke, but who among us hasn't dreamed of a luxury home on wheels? And erasers. For 300 years they've been obliterating our mistakes, but are they still relevant in the computer age? See you after the break. Welcome back to How It's Made. Later, we look at erasers. But first, travelling with a caravan is like having your own personal motel on wheels. Not to be confused with camper vans, caravans are towed and range from the simple to the palatial, with fully equipped bathrooms,